Welcome, Neil. And I mean, we just finished saying, let's have fun. So that's my intention for this audacious conversation today. So thank you for joining me. My intention, apart from having fun, as we were saying, is to be playful and creative. So let's just do that. I know you are probably more versed than I am into doing LinkedIn Lives. But do you want to just introduce yourself maybe with something audacious about yourself?
Audacious. When you put, do you know, when you actually have to put it into words, my audacity is that the things that are sometimes hard to hear, the things I love either writing about or banging on about or making jokes about. And I think it's my purpose to do that. So that's where my audacity lies. Saying those things, acting those things, doing those things.
Fabulous. And my mission in certainly in the last year or so has been to redefine audacity in a positive way. So under those sort of three pillars of courage, care, and non-conformity. So which is the one that speaks most to you right now?
That's really, really difficult. The one that I talk about the most is care and compassion, particularly. The one that is in my heart and is right at the center of me is non-conformity.
That's fab. So, but it's just, I mean, one of the things I would love to explore, and then we'll see, as always, for me, the audacious part of this audacious conversations, as we were talking before, is to let them flow. So, not having a script. So we'll just see where that takes us. But I would love to explore a bit your journey as an author, because that's obviously very close to my heart now with the book, my own book coming out in a few weeks' time. So yeah, why would it maybe the non-conformity, if that's so core to you? How has that journey been non-conforming for you?
To being an author, that's a really good question. I think it's just been enhanced by being on this space and talking about myself as a writer rather than myself as a leadership, neurodivergent, and kind of HR coach, which is kind of where that's at the moment. So I'm actually just taking a moment to breathe that in, because it's that feels quite refreshing. I think from belonging to a small community growing up in a very deprived part of the UK in the 80s, when that's Liverpool, when the city was really on its knees, and still continues. But I think growing up in that environment had a huge effect on me. I seemed to be outside of everything. I was surrounded by sexuality, politics, choices in what to read, art, all the things that seem to lack of general approval around me were the things that I seem to be attracted to. And then I was in education for 25 years. I was also very much an advocate for things like non-hierarchy and equality there, which led to a number of problems. I then started my third career as a leadership coach, as we just mentioned, and really found my feet. So I think just constantly pushing forward. I'm disabled. I'm a PTSD survivor. I'm living with fibromyalgia. So I've got all these things going on that kind of lead to non-conformity or make non-conformity, I think. So and all of that is great stuff.
Absolutely, thank you. And I'm just going to acknowledge, we just had a lovely comment actually from Jodine, and she says, it takes courage to be a non-conformist. Approval is so overrated. Fabulous comment. Thank you for that. And I couldn't agree more. And absolutely, it takes courage to be non-conformist. And, we are human beings. So I'm just going to respond to that. And so we have this need for approval. It's so innate in us. And yet, yes, it is overrated. But it's you need a lot of courage to navigate the human need for approval.
I think that's I really appreciate that comment, actually, because I do hear that about courage, and I see it all the time in the people I work with, and perhaps I'm less likely to acknowledge it in myself, but my default is people pleasing, like many of us, and like many of the people I work with, and I think just that whole element of approval and making the need for it your friend, and knowing something about where that comes from, and seeking your own approval, I guess, in some ways, whilst being aware of other people as well, and their needs, and connected with them. I think it's a combination of all those things for me.
Absolutely. But actually, it is what you've just touched on, Neil, is, this self-approval, which is probably one of the most difficult things as sort of human beings. And for you, with your work on compassion and the mindfulness and everything else, it takes a lot of practice and commitment to get to that point where you self-approve, where, I dare say, the self-love that comes with that approval.
I think that's really, really true. And I think one of the things that I've discovered both on that journey to self-care and loving kindness, to tap into the mindfulness part of it, is really about constantly stripping life back. I think we've got so many narratives in our heads, and the less I'm working. Okay, so we're talking about audacity. My main, I guess, challenge for myself this year is how many narratives can I do without? So I'm literally trying every time there is something that comes into play and goes, that's because of that, or this is where you are now. I'm just trying to just gently and playfully go, is that true? Are you really that? Do you really need to be that? So I think stripping back narratives as much as possible can really, really help with becoming much more in contact with loving yourself and being kind to yourself.
I love that question, Neil. Actually, how many narratives can I do without? I'm going to borrow that. That's just a beautiful question, because we have so many narratives. Which we're not even aware that we carry them as baggage on our, backs and shoulders. So, just stopping and checking in: is this narrative helpful? Is this serving me? And then challenging that narrative, because that's what we do as human beings. We just put meaning on our existence, through lots and lots of narratives. And for me, it's, this has been my biggest challenge, talking about audacity. So my book has got, a lot of A's sort of chapters, but one is assertiveness, which is this courage to say no, which for me, it's even more courageous to say no than it is to say yes. And that's the thing that I still struggle with. Because I love the opportunity. I see everything as an opportunity, even all the obstacles. And therefore, for me to stream down to say no to them, it's a work in progress, a lot of practice.
Yeah, I really hear that. And as you were saying that, I was thinking about the fact that I think for me, it's the difference between no being a reaction. So a reactive statement, not a statement, just a reaction to what's going on, compared to when it's a positive choice. So it's something to lean into and something to just be very clear about. And I think navigating between those two can be quite difficult.
Yes, because you talk about being reactive. It's sort of that reactive state, as you said. And if you go into the pleasing part that you just mentioned before, us people pleasers, we just want to accommodate. So saying no, it's not going to be an easy choice if we're making a choice. So it has to be very deliberate. It has to be very intentional. And for me is like, can I say, no to this? If I say yes to this, what do I have to say no to? That's a constant dance and play.
That's an interesting one. I think so. Kind of picking up on my stripping things back thing, and also a line that I guess is in my head a lot, which I also kind of work with other people on, which is to do less, plan less, and be less. It's the third one that often makes people go, oh, what? And for me, I have to say, when I heard it for the first time, the idea of being less, I was very, very affronted by that. But then as I started practicing mindfulness and more, I realized I didn't, I love being a coach. I love being a son. I love being a partner. I love being lucky enough to have 2 dogs and being a dog owner. I love being a writer. But I'm not any of those things. And actually, it really doesn't matter. I think that's the point where, and I heard it slightly differently. And there was one time where I was feeling very overwhelmed by a lot of stuff I had to do and juggling all this stuff, obviously. And then suddenly what I heard was, instead of, I did hear you don't matter, you're not important. But what I heard was, it's okay. In the grand scheme of things, you're not important. You don't need to leave a legacy. You can just get on your day to day and be as present as possible and do what you can. And I love that. So I'm not, and using that with other people or writing about that is very, particularly I think with where we are as a world at the moment, very delicate to place that. So I'm kind of careful with that. And obviously I don't feel like that. So if I've had a PTSD dream of 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock, I'm not going to say I don't matter to myself. But on the other hand, I think I've found a lot of comfort in that. And every now and again, I can just whisper that to myself. It's okay, you don't matter. Oh, thank God, that's fine. Okay, right, I can get on with my day now. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's we're going back to that sort of self-approval and self-acceptance always. And of course, when you said be less, it's like, oh, that sort of resistance. So for me, it's like almost challenging that with love. And it's like be. We don't have to be more, we don't have to be less, we just have to be. But that's a difficult concept because it's almost a little bit, too abstract. What does that mean, Alina? Just be. But sometimes it's just be present, which is in this world probably one of the most challenging things.
Absolutely.
And the most beautiful thing, to be present in the moment.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of where, in a way, part of me I wanted to go back to where we started. I know we went on to this sort of beautiful path. Because we're talking about your journey as an author. So, what was, you choose, what was the most, I'm just going on the spectrum of either the most challenging part of writing or the most exciting, the most purposeful? You go.
Oh, if I look at it all in all, so I started off trying to write when I was about 18 or 19 to 21. And I found it really difficult because it felt really isolating. Whereas I wrote songs from the same age, and that I found really easy. So I kind of got to 40 before, for whatever reason, that well dried up completely. And I ended up writing with a friend who was completely unreliable, bless him. So I'd be sitting there on Wednesday nights, and in the end I just thought, well, I might as well start myself. So the most challenging thing, I think it's the you'll never be as good as you want to be if you've got that bit in your head. And certainly there's so much to learn starting out writing fiction and really making it work. And I've always been around really good people, been really lucky with that, which also brings with it really big challenges, and I think it probably took me about 6 or 7 years to get to the point where I'd say I was getting grunts of approval for some stuff, But I think the biggest challenge of all was trying to work out what my novel was actually about, then start writing it properly, then learn to write it, and kind of wait, as I am now, I'm in my 10th year of writing it, for my technical ability and my own understanding of what I'm trying to write to catch up with where the storyline is. So there's a lot of firsts kind of going on to make that happen, I would say. In the meantime, I'm lucky enough to have had it, as you know, to have had a couple of short stories placed in independent anthologies. So I haven't got that bit of me going, have I got the chops? I don't know. None of that matters, really. It's just, am I going to get there? But the challenge of that can change day to day. Some days I feel absolutely like I'm the worst writer in the world. I can't do it. other days I'll get, particularly in the editing stage, I'll get a couple of sentences together and read it back and go, oh, did I really write that? And then you look at it the next day and you go, oh, it's no good. So I mean, you're constantly vacillating. But I think, again, it's the acceptance for that's what I think being a writer is, that you'll never be as good as the writer that you want to be. You'll always be better than the writer you were yesterday. And I think that's the extra bit that I've realized as well. So I'm wanting to write something meaningful that's something that's not been said before. That's kind of become important to me. So I think that more or less describes my whole strange journey on it all.
But I mean, I love what you just said, that you never, you're going to be a better writer, I think you said, than you were yesterday. And that's been my challenge, because it's like, where do you draw the line? Because, of course, there is always a continuous improvement. And, what I wrote 5 years, it might not be as valid today. And yet you have to freeze those moments and be okay with what they are, sort of accept them. They, at that particular moment in time, they were what they were. But, it is a long-term journey. You hear these people who can write books in, I don't know, 2 weeks, and then there's a lot of that being sold, as you can write a book in
a month, 60 days,
60 days. I know. And I mean, with the AI, yes, absolutely. But I don't think we're talking about the quality and the depth of the books. Most of those journeys take a while. And you remind me, I have a good friend, and I remember when I was going on my journey, I never expected it to be 4.5 to sort of 5 years. I thought, well, 2 years at most. But he also said he wrote a great book, which took 10 years. And I remember hearing the stories like, oh, that's okay then. It's just, if you have got that resilience and commitment to it, and just writing for not the sake of writing it, because for me, I can't say I enjoyed the writing process as much as some other people write and then enjoy the act of writing. And it was very non-conforming, because, again, when you hear the stories, I get up in the morning at 6 o'clock and I write every day, it's like, the pressure that was putting on me, it was enormous. I ended up just doing, once every 2 weeks, rather, with my book coach, who's based in Canada. And I was writing on a Saturday, so I could see her on a Sunday. So I will find my own way.
I love the truth of that. And it reminds me of, there was a weekend I went to Hastings soon after I'd kind of my previous career, my education career, had kind of come to a halt, and I booked into this B&B, and I took my laptop with me, and I was tapping away and writing chapters, and I had Hastings Sea and the sand outside. I was like, oh, this is so romantic, and then there was a moment about 4 or 5 years later where I was on the couch, my back was hurting, my legs were numb. I was bored out of my mind with what I was editing and reading through, and very aware that most of my time writing is spent doing quite, if someone was filming it, it's incredibly mundane to watch. And I thought, you're a writer. That was the moment when, because it wasn't romantic. And don't get me wrong, there are lots of moments where I feel incredible rushes of dopamine and exhilaration with just spots of a scene, or watching something click together in terms of a plot line, or just trying to represent something thematically that maybe hasn't been said before, that the hope that it will make it through and kind of work. But essentially a lot of it is not romantic at all, and it does and I know it matters from people where they are, but for me, whether I've got a dog dribbling on my hand, or I'm sitting at the kitchen table, or out on the in the kitchen, or in bed with a cup of tea, wherever it is, and it's whenever I can do it. So I was doing it just before we came on air. Now I've just done 10 minutes of editing a crucial scene at the end of part 1 of the novel. So no, I really hear that, and I think going with what feels right with you, and having, I think that other thing you were saying about having the right coach, so having the right person with you, so I think that really matters too. So there are really key people that I've got in my life. I've also got a coach whose memoir is absolutely incredible, and just so lucky it's so aligned thematically to the stuff I'm writing. She's so generous, and I'm one of my best friends too, who's a publisher who luckily I was lucky enough to be published by her, and that made it harder, not easier. She's a constant, support, and wonderful book groups too. The writing groups always give me good stuff back. So I think that's it. Having the right people.
Well, actually, what you reminded me of is it takes a village. That's the truth. It's not. This is not. I mean, you could do it on your own, but it would be, a very lonely journey, and I'm not sure will have the same impact as it does when you are having a community. You've obviously got your group, your writers group, the reading groups, and for me, I worked with many people along that journey. Coach from, I had so many friends and advice, and absolutely the book wouldn't be what it is today without all of those inputs, for sure. And I'm just realizing, we had a lovely comment from Matt saying the wisdom, confidence, and the realization of continuous learning comes with age. Very true. And it's almost like to grow into a space where you feel okay to fail. And for me, there is no, I love to reframe everything in life. And I say there is no failure. It's just feedback. They both start with F. This is what I keep telling my friends and my family and my clients. And then Jodine, I think, just added, success is not a short road. Absolutely. And she's acknowledging your lived experience growing up. The creativity takes time to form and present itself authentically on paper. Absolutely. You definitely don't want to use AI because it's not about writing authentically. I'm not against AI in any way. Not showing my age, you can use it to give you ideas and to play with it. But the creativity and the creative juices, they have to be within.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. Yeah, and likewise too. I think I almost push past, or I am pushing past, or trying to all of that in some ways. So success, if I needed it, was being published in the first place. I think I will finish this novel. I don't have any doubt about it. It's not going to be this year like I planned, but it will happen, and I have a sense of what it will be, and I feel really proud of that. And I have given up on it during 10 years and tried to do other things, but I find it interesting. I keep coming back to it. So that also tells me something. And I think, like you, I'm trying life without successes and failures and even those as labels to live by, rather than just the lived experience of, I guess, the variety of what we experience day by day. The thing about creativity is, for me, that it's something I have to do. So it goes beyond anything else. And I've worked as a coach. I'm a creative coach too. So I've worked with other creatives and writers, and I know for some it's having a really set time and doing it. And I have this loose notional time. Maybe it's my neurodivergence. I have this kind of loose notional bucket arrangement. But I have to. If I don't do a bit of writing or a bit of editing every day, I feel like there's something that's itching that hasn't been scratched. So it doesn't have to be loads, but I know that's different for lots of other people, as it should be. It's different for all of us.
Well, that's great to hear, actually, because it is interesting. Absolutely, we're all very different. But for you to acknowledge that, to know that you do a little bit every day, it effectively it feeds your own internal need. For me, it's that. I do have a need for consistency, for sure. And you and I were talking just before we got on sort of live. Even this particular project with Audacious Conversation, it was an audacious idea that I had in December and January, and then I went on, and I just jump in the coldest water, and then I find out if I can swim. That's just been my philosophy of life. And so I chose Mondays, and I said to myself, I'm going to do it every 2 weeks consistently for 12 months over 2024, to only then find out that Mondays bank holidays in the UK. So, my really nicely organized brain, who wanted this every 2 weeks, it didn't happen. And because I had to do once every week, like I'm doing it in August, or because of bank holidays, or, once every 3 weeks. And it's okay. It's about the long-term consistency. So, yeah, it's about just committing and staying with it and enjoying it.
I love that. I love that. I guess I was wondering as well, because obviously I'm a long way off, like agents and possibly I'll pitch in the right environment, but and thinking about publication. So the idea of letting go, I'm still happily wrapped in the stage of it still forming. I was just wondering what it was like for you, talking about Audacious, to know that this is the version that's going to go out to the world, that now you're giving that over to other people as well, and it's going to be owned by them too. What was that like?
Well, it's an interesting one because for me to hear you about, not sort of giving up, but for me, everything was audacious from the moment. I say life is an experiment. So this was an experiment for me, writing the book. And then I gave myself a year to find a publisher, and then I was going to self-publish. So again, in terms of patience, for me, I love to take risks. I'm a big risk taker, but I sort of calculated. So if it didn't work, and my agent is one of my best friends. She's, you probably know the stories, but she's always wanted to be an agent. And I said to her, take me as, play. And then what can happen? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And, she has a serendipitous meeting with this, very audacious publisher profile that I ended up. And it was through these serendipitous meetings. I say that everything happens through people. And if you look at it as play, it's just a learning experiment, and let go. It's interesting you say letting go of that attachment, and that's one of my chapters of the book, which is the adaptability, which let it be. Going back to Jen, it's letting go and let it be, and then as an eternal optimist, see what happens, but not stopping trying. And for me, I had to let go. I am a bit of a control freak. I knew once it goes into the traditional publishing, they'll have a big say in it. But I had to trust that process. So, that's why I would want to challenge you with love a bit. Is like, do it and just let go of it, and that's it. And then see what happens.
I like that. Yeah.
So yeah, and for me, I'm incredibly excited. It's what day is today? 5th of August. So the book will be out in the world, in bookshops in the UK. So the normal Waterstones and W. Smith and the bookstores on the 22nd of August.
Oh, fantastic! Congratulations!
Thank you. It's very close. So it's real. The countdown has started. I've just come back from a few wonderful weeks in LA as a holiday, and someone said you're nuts to have a holiday before the book launch, but I'm glad I did, because I made a lot of mental space for it. And one of the things actually, I've sort of got, I think you know about it, but you and I were talking before, I'd love to, for the audience who's on, or anybody who will watch this later, we are doing a free virtual event for my book on the 20th. So that's Tuesday, the 20th of August. It's at 6 o'clock in the UK, and it's an hour, and it's it's a Q&A. People can come and ask me anything about or anything at all. The team will be there, so they'll put me into the hot seat. And then it's an audacious idea that I had. You may know, as part of my coaching practice, I do retreats. I do an Audacious Leaders Retreat, which is an exclusive retreat in Transylvania every year. So next year, I would love to offer the chance to one person to win a place at that retreat.
Gosh, that's a wonderful offer. That's brilliant.
In the spirit of experimentation and playfulness and audaciousness.
Well, I've seen the posts and the newsletters and seen the pictures, so it looks amazing. I think that's a wonderful offer. Yeah.
So please do join me. Of course, I'd love to have you there, Neil, and everybody else who's here or who's listening to this again. And I think it is. I think we've done it on the Eventbrite. So I will put it into the notes to this, and then obviously we will promote. But do ask me if you haven't seen it anywhere and if you're interested. So just as we're getting close to the end of this, what's an audacious thing that you will want to live with, to the audience, to yourself?
I keep coming back to this: do less, plan less, be less. And I'm coming at it because I'm thinking about that is how I'm going to get the book written. I seem to have internalized that fine, more or less. But then I'm thinking about my coaching at the moment, and that's I've just started the beginning of that within my own mindset towards my coaching, I suppose. And I'm having a lot of conversations with HR professionals and executives and higher up leaders and neurodivergent people across the board, but then also young professionals, particularly. It's quite a wide-ranging group of people. But in all three of those communities, these are the things I keep coming back to, that actually we all need to be brave enough to be kinder to ourselves, to let ourselves off the hook more, and to bring some of that kindness to other people too, with that playfulness that you would do to your pet. Although I do see a lot of miserable people with their dogs, and I'm thinking, why have you got a dog? Anyway, that's a whole other event. But you know, and to to our kids, that just that curiosity and playfulness, and what a difference our world and our workplaces and our lives would be if we did that. And that's what creativity is to me. It is that audaciousness to just push the button, just push things a little further with a smile on your face and wait and see what happens.
I love that. So that, I mean, that is a call to action for the audience and for yourself. Do less, be less. I shall try that. I'm trying to sort of process what that will mean in my world, but I will.
I'm plan less. Don't forget that one.
Plan less. That is a big challenge for me. Plan less. Yes. Just stay there, go with the flow. I shall definitely try that. But it's been an absolute pleasure and honor.
Thank you, Alina. I've had a really good time, and I knew I would, but just really nice to be able to talk to you and hear such insightful kind of reflections from the audience too. Lovely.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic to have those engagements. So thank you all. And then, reach out to any of us and look forward to seeing you. I'm doing this every week now this month. So, one next week and then another one week after. And then I've got a bank holiday, which I didn't plan, but that will make me create the space. So thank you. We'll say goodbye to everybody here. And then, sending lots of playfulness and love everybody's way. Thank you.